Hello, I'm Alexandra Sleator, Career Accelerator, and that means that working together, you'll get to achieve your career aspirations faster than you would on your own. We can tackle a wide range of career challenges. Of course, we can help you progress your career, whether that means articulating a promotion strategy to ensure you win the promotion you deserve. But it can also mean repackaging your skills so that you can make a bid for an altogether very different role. We can support you in your career right here, right now, and help you notably polish such fundamental skills as communication, influence, so that you can raise your visibility, have more impact, help you deal with conflict more effectively, more proactively in fact, but also skills around motivating your team, managing your own personal effectiveness, or even present with confidence. And indeed, if you so wish to, we can help you develop your leadership presence, just to name a few. Thirdly, and indeed last but by no means least, we can help you through a career transition. That can mean, of course, returning to the workforce after a break, but it can also mean redefining success so that you can identify a career which will be more fulfilling than the one you have today. The point is that no matter what your challenge, we can work together in both a time and cost-efficient way to ensure you achieve your career dreams. So hello and welcome to 2014. Happy New Year to everyone. In this first offering of the new year, I want to come back to a topic that I've dealt with previously, which is that of goal setting. And indeed, this is that season where many of you will already be engaged, or if not yet, then soon will be engaged, in identifying and recording your work objectives for 2014. For those of you who have been following my career tips, you may recall some of these articles, and for those of you who missed them, if you feel like catching them up, you can access these free resources at the URL which is appearing on the screen at the bottom right now. But today I would like to do something a little bit different and move beyond the traditional, although well-established and indeed quite effective techniques to set goals, such as the SMART acronym that I'm sure many of you will be familiar with. I'd like to suggest something, if not necessarily original, but at least a little bit fresh. And so I want to talk to you about motivation. I would like to assert that motivation is key to goal achievement. And indeed, it's the motivation not just to start working on goals, but it's the motivation to keep going, even in the face of obstacles along the way, even in case of setback, of slippages, when everything seems to go wrong, to keep at it. Motivation. And so indeed, if motivation is so fundamental to achieving one's goal, then no matter whether we set goals at work or outside, then we should assign ourselves, or as line managers looking to assign goals to team members, think of goals that motivate. Because goals that motivate are the ones that stand the highest chance of being achieved, as opposed to goals that don't motivate, that will see people falter. So it begs the question, what are those goals that motivate? And there is out there in the literature so much around goal setting, goal achievement. But for today I want to talk to you maybe about only 3 elements that I think are fundamental to identifying and working on motivating goals. And these are autonomy, because autonomy sustains motivation by creating something called self-drive. Purpose. Purpose also keeps us going, keeps us motivated. And finally, satisfaction. So let's look at these 3, autonomy, purpose, and satisfaction, a little bit more in detail. So, autonomy creates self-drive, as I've just said. And so here, let's consider all the good byproducts of autonomy. Research on autonomy has shown that in an office context, it correlates to staff well-being, job satisfaction, and employee engagement. And those in turn produce performance and productivity in the office. So, great stuff. More generally though, let's forget that we're in the office. People who feel that they have autonomy in their life behave very differently from people who don't. And indeed, people who feel they have autonomy show a behavior that can be called self-driven. That is to say that they don't need intervention from external third parties to remind them to get going with things, to help them continue to work on something, to encourage, to remind, to support, to even kick them sometimes. Indeed, they don't need this external intervention because they have internal drive. So autonomy means that people just work of their own accord without the need for intervention. So for those line managers watching me today, let me encourage you to promote in your team an environment which fosters autonomy. Not only because you will get performance and productivity, but because you will get people that you don't need to micromanage, because they'll be working on their own without your need for constant intervention. Now, of course, some of us managers tend to like to exert quite a level of control. And so to give autonomy may feel a little bit like it goes against the natural grain. And I was like that myself. I like to keep, to run a tight ship. But when I discovered the benefits of autonomy, I realized that letting go appropriately was going to yield me even greater rewards. And indeed, to have autonomy doesn't mean that as a line manager you leave your team members all to their own devices. Autonomy is not the same as isolation. Line managers who promote autonomy are supportive line managers, but it means a very different rapport with the team member than when it is more along the lines of control. So supportive line managers encourage autonomy, which helps people be happy, have job satisfaction, feel engaged and feel fine, be productive and performing, all of that in a self-driven fashion. So pragmatically, line managers who want to foster autonomy, what do they need to do when setting goals with their team members? Here's my recommended list. They need to take the team member's perspective into account. They need to provide a reasonable degree of choice for the team member to pick their work objectives. They need to encourage the team member for them to feel they can take the initiative and act independently. That's that autonomy and self-drive here. And of course they need to offer support in the form of regular feedback in an informal manner so that they remain connected to the team member, and that enables them to exercise some degree of control, a little bit of a quality assurance type of process. And they need to provide a meaningful rationale around any work objective that they propose. So you may want to pause here and maybe take a look at that list that is on your screen right now and see whether you might want to take a few notes if that speaks to you. And the last point on the slide was around providing a meaningful rationale. And you will recall that my second element around motivating goals is purpose. And indeed, a sense of purpose sustains motivation. All of us will have experienced it. We get started, we're quite enthusiastic, and somehow we falter. What's gone on? Well, the goal was clearly not motivating enough. For those of you again familiar with these career tips, you will have heard me say it before, the more personally resonant a goal, the more motivating that goal. And the more the individual will be able to hang on to that goal and keep at it despite obstacles, setbacks, and whatnot. So what is a personally resonant goal anyway? Well, a personally resonant goal is one that is bigger than the task itself. It's one that engages us at the personal level. It aligns with our values, it fulfills our needs. And that explains why non-personally resonant goals, which do not touch us, are so hard to work on, because they're simply out there rather than inside. Let me illustrate with a very trivial example. Let's imagine that I've been asked by my boss to go and make a few photocopies of a memo that's written on a piece of paper. He needs that piece of paper copied a few times because he's running into a meeting and he's decided that in fact he wants to share that memo with the colleagues at the meeting. And so he grabs me and he asks me, "Alexandra, please go and make 10 copies of this." Now if I focus on the task itself, I can find it very unrewarding. Why did he grab me? Why do I have to go to the copy machine? I have to wait in line. It's such a boring job. It's such a trivial job. He should have given it to somebody more junior. And I'm grumbling and grumbling. I'm going to do it, but you can see the mindset. Now, how about if I look at it a little bit different? I could realize that he's asked me because he trusts me, that he knows that I'm dependable and reliable, and he has only 10 minutes, and he knows that I will get things done even in 10 minutes. I could realize that the memo is an important part of what he wants to put forward at the meeting, and that therefore, by photocopying the memo, I'm contributing to his own effectiveness in the meeting. I could remind myself about the agenda of the meeting and how crucial the decisions that are going to be made there are. And so if I think about it that way, I'm first connected to my relationship to my boss and the sense of trust that we share. I'm connected to a bigger purpose, which is that I'm participating, albeit indirectly, to the success of the meeting that he's attending. And so I can feel more emotionally connected, more personally connected, and I can feel that even such a small task, and a menial one at that, is in fact something I don't mind doing and that I feel positive and rewarded with. So that's that sense of purpose, which can come even in the smallest tasks. And many of you will have heard me talk about the gentleman who was cleaning the loos at NASA, who says that he was helping to put a man on the moon. That's a great sense of purpose. So again, let's ask ourselves, like we did for autonomy, how do we practically, as line managers, help folks in our team have that sense of purpose around goals that motivate them? And here the tip I want to draw your attention to is simply to consider whether your team members, and you know each one of them, are more of an eagerness or of a vigilance disposition. People who are of an eagerness disposition tend to see the world through more rosy lenses, and to use a metaphor, they tend to see the glass as half full. In contrast, the people who are of a vigilance disposition tend to be more weary of the world. The world is less their oyster, and so they tend to see the world as a glass that is half empty. Now, as a manager, that is something to bear in mind. And let me give you another example. Consider the following task that you want one of your team members to complete. It's finishing a report. The report is nearly there. It's just adding those finishing touches. And you want to make the report a little bit more exciting than it is. Now, if you're dealing with someone of an eagerness disposition, you might want to say something like, please make sure to add detail so that the report comes to life and is vivid. You see that eagerness type of language. Conversely, if you're speaking to somebody which is more of a vigilance disposition, you might want to say, please be careful not to miss any important detail, and also avoid making the report boring. You're actually saying exactly the same thing, but your choice of word is quite different. And indeed, imagine that you were speaking to the vigilant person, the one who's problem-orientating, a little bit worried, a bit careful, a bit glass half empty, and say, make the report vivid, add detail. That would not resonate with them. They're interested in fixing things, in avoiding problems. So the language around being careful not to miss detail and not for the report to be boring speaks more to them. And that's how you create that resonance around the goal when you frame it. So again, spend a little bit of time thinking about, who's an eagerness type of person and who's more of a vigilance type of person, and bring that knowledge into your goal setting conversation to foster that sense of purpose through resonance. So we've dealt with autonomy and purpose, and now we come to the third element, which is satisfaction. And indeed, satisfaction is simply the byproduct of the combination of autonomy with purpose. Otherwise said, autonomy and purpose yield satisfaction. Through autonomy, people's needs and interests are being catered to, and through purpose, their tendency for either vigilance or eagerness is being understood and a resonance created for them. They are self-driven, people who work on their own without the need for micromanagement and intervention. They keep working despite setbacks. And so as a line manager who is in charge of delivering, you get people who are productive, who are performing in a way that is also making them happy. And how are they happy? Well, they're happy in two ways. First, they're happy in terms of their job satisfaction. We talked about that a little bit earlier already. But they get that sense of accomplishment, that happiness linked to a job well done. Duty accomplished for some of them, box ticks, that sense of we got there, celebration. But beyond that sort of, I would say, relatively superficial, and I don't mean to devalue it, but that sort of tip of the iceberg of satisfaction, there's something more that is achievable there, a different kind of satisfaction. There in the distance, shimmering, is something about being connected, feeling that you're in the right place where you are in your team and in your firm, a sense of connection to your colleagues, a sense of participation to the development, the growth of the firm, a sense of contribution, a sense of making a difference, and in fact, a sense of belonging. So that's it. That's why I believe that line managers, and I did that, and I want to encourage you, line managers out there, to consider doing it, setting goals, bearing in mind the importance of autonomy, purpose, and satisfaction. I trust that these tips will have provided, original food for thought. As usual, I would love to hear back. Do you think this is all crazy, fluffy stuff, or is that something that you see yourself using pragmatically in the office? You are free to comment below the video box or simply to email me, and my address is appearing on the screen right now. I will look forward to seeing you next month for more career tips, and until then, I wish you a wonderful start to 2014. Thank you so much for watching, and take care. Bye-bye.